to say. I just want to say
新年快乐, Happy New Year, 2023, Year of the Rabbit. I just wanted to wish everyone a wonderful, healthy, prosperous, and very successful year of the Year of the Rabbit. Shall we say hello? Everyone.
Who's everyone?
Hello. Happy
Hello,
New Year.
Happy New Year.
We wish you health, happiness, good fortune, and happiness every day.
Yeah, Happy New Year is good for everything.
Happy New Year. 新年快乐.
Chapter 5 The Dead and the Living. Amos sat stunned as red, dim, dancing light swam in the darkness. His breath was trapped, increasingly claustrophobic in his dizzy chest until he felt tiny little paws scratching and prodding him. The scratch of blood broke the spell, and Amos snapped out of his reverie with a lurching gasp. "Ouch, thunder!" he cried. Amos heard Grandma creeping up the stairs with an overbearing chorus of sighs and suffering. Dazed but determined not to be caught, Amos slid out of the closet, brushed himself off, and rushed to stand beside the bed, looking casual. Grandma popped her head in. "You didn't shower," she scolded. "It's been half an hour already. What were you doing?" Her eyes scanned the room and returned to him, lingering on the fresh cat scratches on his legs. Amos glanced around guiltily, but Thunder was nowhere to be seen. "It's dinner time. Hurry up!" With eye rolls of impetuous fury, Amos stormed off to the bathroom. Amos showered, changed into his pajamas and bunny slippers, and stomped to the kitchen. His feet knew the way, but Amos drifted into a snow globe of his imagination. The nook was real. It had whooshed open, and something was back there in the darkness. Could what he had dreamt have been real? What did it all mean? Downstairs, the kitchen table was laid out in a delicious hot pot feast. Plates of vegetables and meats of all colours, shapes and sizes layered the table around the central steaming spicy pot of bubbling, broiling red chili oil. Amos sat down, grabbed his chopsticks, and went fishing inside. After all the exercise and sun he had gotten today, and after his nook stupor daydream, he was light-headed, exhausted, and humiliated. Still, the food was so delicious and spicy. It rejuvenated him with the magic of ghost peppers, the secret of Chongqing spice. Still, his thoughts wandered past the closet into the abyss. Amos wolfed down bowls of crunchy lotus root, slices of tripe that looked like old dish towels, and spicy hot beef strips. "Thanks, Grandma," Amos said. A tired smile jerked the corners of his mouth into a rictus grin. Grandma, for her part, let him eat as fast as he wanted, and didn't complain when he ran upstairs after dinner. His pounding heart jackhammered in his ears as he crept into the murky closet and felt for the hidden place. He reached in with both hands, jamming one finger into something wooden and hard. The trunk! He dragged it out into the dim evening gloom of his papa's childhood room and shoved open the latch. Amos gasped, his trepidation forgotten, as the trunk creaked open stiffly. Dusty air puffed into his face, and a shimmering glint of metal caught the moonlight. He unwrapped a necklace that held a ring and pendant, both marked with the triple swirls of what looked like interconnected trees, and slipped it over his head. There was something else, a piece of paper folded in half. He opened it, examining the flowing script, unlike anything he'd ever seen. A portent, a mystery, a conundrum. He slipped it into his pocket. He shook the silken fabric in circles, and dancing dirt devils fluttered around the room until the cloak was simply dusty, not dust-caked. With a flourish, he slipped the silken red robe over his head. Something changed with the sound in the room and how he perceived it. It took a moment to realize that his heart wasn't pounding anymore. It was like everything, his breathing, his heart, and time and space itself had slowed down. Calmly, he tiptoed to the hallway stairs and listened. Grandma was cleaning up after dinner. If only I could creep down the stairs as silent as a caterpillar, Amos thought, squinting in concentration. When he opened them, he was already at the bottom of the stairs. He peered around in surprise. How did I do that? Amos snuck towards the door, but there was no sign of Thunder or Rufus. Grandma hummed while she washed up after dinner, the contented sound of family life. For a moment, he froze at the doorway. The hot pot had warmed his belly and washed away some of the indignity of the day. He could picture himself turning around, going to help her put away plates and dishes and the easy conversation of evening chatter. In another world, there was an Amos with no notions of skulking around in a dusty old cloak. Then he blushed, embarrassed at himself, for he was a boy of 12, a prime age for skulking. "Whatever," he said, and prepared to skulk hard. If you want something you've never had, you have to do something you've never done. He turned the handle carefully, opening the door without making a creak. Thunder slipped by his feet and out the door, and Amos padded quickly behind. Outside, Thunder hopped down the way toward the forest. The rusty red moon above was fat and full. Amos whistled at the blood moon as the air pulled him away into the vacuum of night, and then came the crack as the heavens split asunder. It had been warm, and the ground was dry, but a single drop of cool rain dripped down the back of his neck. Amos followed Thunder around the sweet-smelling lavender hill and around the bend. Amos loved his new cloak, light and sleek, and as the rain softly drizzled down, he pulled the hood up around his head. Thunder chased a butterfly into a bush and soon hopped out the other side, and they were together again. Lightning exploded in the sky, and the night cracked all around him like an exploding cannon. He barely managed to stay on his muddy feet. Thunder flew through the air and caught the lovely many-coloured butterfly under one paw. Moments later, raising the paw to examine it, the butterfly took off again, off the path and into the trees. Thunder bolted after it. Amos followed, racing down a slippery slope until he came to rest next to a large tree stump under the protective canopy of foliage. His necklace twinkled silvery, faintly humming with power in the moonlight, and Amos could feel the hair on his neck stand on end. The barrier between his imagination and the unknown blurred as secretive and stealthy things crept. Amos heard a chittering all around him in the darkness, and glowing eyes appeared all around him, like in his dreams. Suddenly, Amos found himself entirely lost in the dark woods, far from home. Under the canopy of trees, the fresh air was infused with the fragrance of pine and lavender flowers. Amos didn't know that he had stopped exactly over the 8th Stone Age cultural site discovered in China, dating back more than 20,000 years along the Bachuan River. They had been full of ancient, beautiful, and almost mystical bronze dragon lanterns and an entire host of ceremonial stone warriors, a little terracotta army. He only knew that as rays of moonlight reflected in a large puddle, revealing pools of glowing, milky orbs, he was not alone. Some said the old Tongliang Ming tombs were haunted, or a thinner barrier to neighbouring magical worlds. Right now, all Amos knew was that the many eyes that watched him in the gloom were not of Tongliang, not of this earth, and somehow, as his necklace began to hum with hidden power, Amos knew it was all his fault. Thunder began to growl, a low guttural sound, as the singing cicadas caterwauled all around him. The milky orbs scattered with a low chittering, and it grew darker. A nebulous green fog rolled around his feet, and Thunder hissed and sprang away, leaving him all alone. Amos held his breath, hoping it would soon pass, rammed his eyes closed, and counted back from 10. When he opened them, his heart skipped a beat as he gazed into the mercurial amber eyes from his nightmares. A sly, slinky red fox padded towards him, and a shiver ran down Amos's spine. Its beaked nose touched his. Rows of razor-sharp fangs slavered. The fox spirit spoke in a terrible voice that grated his nerves, rooted in a petrified stupor. "Hello, boy. I've been looking everywhere for you." Amos froze, his breath caught in his chest. Who are you?" Amos stammered. "I am the gloom, foolish boy. I am the crack in your light. I am the hungry wolf come home for dinner. You couldn't resist playing with your toys, could you? And here I am, to eat your foolish soul." The Hooly-Jing lifted its head back to laugh with a terrible, callous coldness as tears leaked down Amos's cheeks and dripped from his glasses. The boy who always got away finally knew what it was like to be completely without hope. The fox curled up around Amos, inhaling him like a fine perfume. Its 90 shadowy tails fanned out around him like the bars of a prison cell. Amos was trapped in the clutches of a Hooly-Jing, a fox spirit trickster. He now knew that demons were real, and the boy's mind, stretched to its limit, suddenly snapped. The forest was silent, and time dripped like sweat from his brow. The fox licked its lips, savouring his fear, and it occurred to Amos that there could be something worse than death. It pressed its nose against the boy's cheek until a salty tear fell from his eyes. A long, scratchy sandpaper tongue licked the side of his face, leaving a sticky, cloudy residue across his glasses. It was, at that moment, when the fox spirit brushed against the silver world tree pendant that Amos first felt their spirits intermingle. It was a strange coupling of the fox spirit's joy and his fear. The trickster reeled back and sniffed at the boy's neck. "You're not the boy, not exactly. From here, but not entirely. How peculiar. A strange one, with a strange smell, covered in trinkets you know nothing about," the fox whispered. It sniffed again, curiously. "But you'll do, won't you?" The fox inhaled him like he was a delicious meal. "Oh, yes, you'll do." The trickster lifted its head back as if in laughter, and a guttural, slow, syrupy sound creeped out as its jaw cracked, dislocating. Suddenly, it lurched forward and engulfed the boy's head. Amos shivered as a numbing tingle spread through him. Slack-jawed, tears rimmed his spectacled eyes, and the vicious, ice-cold, burning pain spread quickly out from his chest cavity to his extremities. Amos felt some essence, the he part of him, leaking into the trickster's hungry mouth. He bit his tongue until the taste of tangy iron filled his mouth. His vision was blurred and twisted into a Mobius of colours and memories, drawn painfully from his core, a life of experiences draining rapidly out his eyes, nose, mouth, and ears. And something else happened too. A twinning of his sensation, a doubling of his eyes. He was both a very hurt, weak boy and a very powerful, hungry trickster. One dwindled while the other expanded hungrily, greedily, bleeding the boy dry. In the darkest abyss of hopelessness, a small sliver of light shone down upon the boy as the earth and moon hurriedly parted ways. Feeding, sucking the soul from the boy, the trickster barely registered a blur of white fur soaring through the air until it collided with an astonishing force that left the trickster winded, even as the beast tore deep into the Hooly-Jing's exposed neck. The beast's savage maw tore through fur and flesh and blood to the bone. Amos, no, the fox spirit, yowled and struck out with its vicious tails. The furry white blur held on doggedly, ripping, biting, and tearing, and the two beasts snarled and whirled like primordial forces of nature. The fox spirit exhaled a noxious green gas into the beast's face. Gagging, it finally released its death grip upon the fox's throat. The trickster shifted forms and drew a long, dark, magic-runed blade that dripped with a purplish ichor, and it sailed through the air, and Amos heard a pitiful yelp. On the ground, Amos, spent and hovering between life and death, closed his eyes. He heard the cries of battle and felt a pungent magic envelop him. And then there was silence. After a time, the cicades and crickets resumed their dance of life, and the creatures finally exhaled. The last thing Amos remembered before the blackness swallowed him was the haunting song of the forest.